Hi, everybody. My name is Michi, rhymes with Peachy, and I am the Packshed and Distribution Manager for Grow Johnson County. Grow Johnson County is a 5-acre organic fruit and vegetable farm located in Iowa City, Iowa. We grow close to around 40 varieties of different fruits and vegetables, and we are not so much a typical farm. We don't sell all of our product. We're a hunger relief and educational farm. So in terms of hunger relief, all of the food that we grow, all 40 varieties of it, is freely distributed to social service agencies. So that could be student pantries, that could be free meal sites, domestic violence intervention programs, homeless shelters, neighborhood centers. We distribute to a variety of different places in Johnson County. And then on the education side of things, we invite and host people from everywhere in the community who want to come onto the farm and learn about growing their own food. So typically when you think about farms in Iowa, the image that comes to people's head is thousands and thousands of acres and corn and soybeans. And we don't have thousands and thousands of acres. We have 5 acres, so that's roughly the size of 5 football fields. And there are no corn and soybeans located on this farm. I'm actually standing inside of our greenhouse, which was just built, finished, completed earlier this year. So I can show you around a little bit. Over here we have some transplants that are growing. We have lettuce, beets, and some more lettuce. And then on this back table, or on all the back tables in the greenhouse, we have onions that are being cured and dried. And our greenhouse is 100 feet long by 30 feet wide. So what I do here at the farm is I am the Packshed and Distribution Manager, and you'll hear that and be like, what is that? And so food needs to be harvested and cleaned and packaged in a certain way. So for example, think about tomatoes. Do you have tomatoes at your home? You probably keep them in the refrigerator. What you don't know is that tomatoes should actually be kept outside of the refrigerator so that they last longer. And so there's lots of little tips and tricks to maintaining food that people don't know about. And so on a day-to-day basis, I come out here and I am in charge of making sure everything that needs to get done that day gets done. So I and the volunteers will go out into the fields. We will harvest whatever needs to be harvested. We will clean it in the way that it needs to be cleaned. And then we will make sure that it's put away properly. That's the first part of my day. The second part of my day is distributing, sending out all of the food. Because we have so many different types of partner agencies, they all serve different populations, different clients. I kind of have to keep all of those preferences in my mind. So for example, a pantry is different from a meal prep site. So pantries usually can take large quantities of a large variety of different foods, whereas a meal prep site usually has a menu that they have to stick to. And so the food that I send out has to help them supplement their meals that they've already told people that they're going to send out. So, like if they promise people that they're going to send out salads, then sending out lettuce and tomatoes to those sites so they can help supplement the meals that they've already told people that they're going to have. It can get a little tricky sometimes because we distribute to so many different partners, and I have all of that information in my head, and I have to cater to all of them for multiple reasons. The first being we don't want food to go to waste. We don't want food to go to waste. Our partner agencies don't want food to go to waste. But the second being the principle of food sovereignty. Food sovereignty is the right of people to choose their agricultural systems. And so then that means that they get to decide what they eat, what they put in their body, but also how their food is grown. If you go into a store and you look at conventionally priced produce versus organically priced produce, you'll see that organically priced produce can be more expensive. And so then by providing these agencies with free organic produce, these people who are low to moderate income or people who are suffering from homelessness can now access that food that's organic. But is it food that's, you know, culturally relevant to them, or is it food that they want to eat? I don't like being fed food that I don't want to eat, and I would never want to feed food to someone that they don't want to eat. And so then the idea of food sovereignty is like, we will give people the food that they want to eat. And so being able to cater to all these different agencies is really important for that sense. Okay, so I've already kind of touched on this a little bit, but we serve a variety of different clients. And because we have so many different partner agencies, we have clients. We serve families with, you know, children as young as 18 months. And then we serve people who are over 100 years old. We serve new Iowans, immigrants, refugees, survivors of domestic violence, people who are struggling with homelessness, and anybody and everybody who wants to eat clean, organic, local food, but they aren't able to access it because, you know, maybe they don't have transportation to the store, or maybe the store prices are way too expensive. So literally anyone in the Johnson County community who goes to any of our partner agencies can be served by Grow Johnson County. And then in terms of our education is open to the community. So we have, you know, we'll host field trips from schools. We'll host groups from the community who just want to come out and tour and learn about everything that we do. And then we also have some youth activities that we'll host in a non-COVID year. And then we also have an apprenticeship. And so that's actually how I got started. So the path to my career wasn't very typical. I didn't grow up in a farming family. I didn't even have a garden growing up. I went to college and I said, I'm going to be a chemist and I'm going to work in a laboratory and I'm going to synthesize things every day, but that didn't happen. I was looking for volunteering opportunities when I was 20, and a friend of mine volunteered here and they brought me out and said, okay, we're going to go to a vegetable farm. And I tell people it was love at first sweat because they put me to work right away. And so I started off as a volunteer when I was 21, and then the following year is when Grow Johnson County hosted their first apprenticeship. And an apprenticeship is a job you have, but the point of the job is to learn as you go. And so the other apprentices already knew, they already had some sort of farming or background experience, but I had absolutely nothing. I didn't even know broccoli was a flower. I knew that I ate broccoli, but I didn't know broccoli was a flower, and I didn't know that Brussels sprouts grew on a stalk, and I didn't know what okra looked like on a plant. And so then it was a very, very, it was a steep learning curve, but I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. I'm very grateful that my career turned out the way that it did, and that I'm not sitting in a laboratory right now for, 8 hours a day, and instead I get to be out in nature, growing food for my friends, my family, and my community. And so one thing that I can show you is how we clean up onions. And so, like I said, we have this entire greenhouse is filled with onions that are curing, and we actually have more onions out in another shed. So we cure our onions. That just means to dry them out so that they last longer, because we don't know how long people are gonna have these around in their pantries or in their homes. And so then this stem was once very vibrant and green, but now it's all dried up. So this onion's all ready to be cleaned off. And how you clean an onion is you just kind of rub the outside layers, and anything that comes off. You don't want to go picking at it, because you do want some of the layers to stay on. It's kind of like wearing clothing. So the outer layer, the outermost dry layer, acts like your clothing, and it protects the onion from, you know, being bumped on or, you know, picked up when people touch it. And so what we'll want to do is we want to cut off the stem, and then we want to cut off the roots. And so then this is the tool that we use to do these. This is not an onion shear. These were actually designed to be sheep shears, but they work great for onions too. And so then that looks a little bit more like the onions that you see in the stores. And onions are some of our most highly requested items. So another thing I can show you really quickly is how we start all of our seeds. So again, we don't have, you know, super big tractors that go out and lay all of the seeds for us in the field. We actually start all of our seeds by hand in trays. And so this is a tray. This is a 128, which just means it has 128 different holes where seeds can be grown. So what we do is that we will take the tray and we'll fill it up with potting mix. And this potting mix is actually from West Branch, Iowa, you know, very local. And then we'll spread it around. We want to make sure that the cell is nice and packed. We don't want it to be too loose, and then we don't want it to be too tight. And then we have this fancy little tool called a dibbler. It's lots of fun to say. We'll put the dibbler over the tray. And what this does is that it makes holes for us. So we will grow thousands and thousands and thousands of transplants. And so we don't want to spend a whole bunch of time, you know, poking individual holes ourselves, which is why we have a dibbler. We have several dibblers. But if you can see, here's the cell, and then here is the dibble or the hole where the seeds will go. And we will dibble, and we will, I think, lettuce, the lettuce that I showed you earlier, chard, watermelon, squash, pretty much everything that we grow out here is started in that way. And there's multiple reasons for that. You know, the main reason being that we want our plants to have a healthy start. And so then the land that we're on used to be conventionally farmed. So it's not exactly the most healthy land. So this potting mix it's going to give the plants a jump start. It has a whole bunch of nutrients in it, and the plant will soak up all those nutrients. It'll grow up nice and healthy, and then we're able to transplant individual cells into the ground. And so because we have only put in the seed of our crop, there are no weed seeds in each of those cells. So then each plant not only has all those added nutrients, but it also doesn't have any weeds, which means it won't be outcompeted. It won't have to compete with weeds for sunlight, for water, and for other nutrients as well. And so, yeah, there's a lot of tips and tricks to farming, but the biggest tip I have for everyone is to just get your hands dirty, because you can go to school and you can major in agriculture. You can go to the library and pick up a whole bunch of books on growing and farming, and those are all wonderful things to do. But at the end of the day, you just gotta get that dirt under your fingernails. You gotta go out and start growing in order to become a grower and a farmer. And like all jobs, there's wonderful things and there's hard things about farming. And so I personally like a challenge. That's why I went into school wanting to major in chemistry, because I don't back away from hard things. And the way that things happen interests me. And so I tell people that farming is a lot like chemistry because you can do everything correctly. You can follow all of the steps, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get your final product, which is a challenge, failure. It can be really hard to deal with failure at times, but you just got to get back on the horse and keep going. You got to push forward and continue to grow. Food is a necessity, so you always got to continually try, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Something else that I love about this job in particular is all of the educational opportunities that we have, because like I said, I do not come from any growing background at all whatsoever, and now I'm a manager here. And so then there's definitely opportunity for growth, definitely opportunity for expansion, and now I get to help teach people who don't have any farming or growing background at all. I get to help them acquire that knowledge and acquire those skills, which is amazing to think about because just 4 years ago, I wasn't able to do any of this. Another wonderful part of my job is all of the connections that I get to make. So because we work with so many different partner agencies, I can now say, oh yeah, hey, I know somebody at this agency and they connected me to this other person. And so then I get to meet and work with and talk to people who work all over the county area, but then I also get to meet some of the clients who take home our food. And then we've developed relationships, we've developed friendships, and it's incredible just the connectedness that we can all have working together. And when you have that connectedness, you're able to again continue that education process and teach them about the things they didn't know. For example, we even had a partner agency, ask about, oh well, why isn't this food ready yet, or why isn't this food ready yet, or when can we get this? And it's like, well, there's a certain there's different seasons, and so you can only grow things earlier on in the summer, later on in the summer, and then sometimes even if something is supposed to be available right now, it just isn't available, which again, failure is one of those challenges that we face, but also the weather too. The weather can impact what we're able to harvest, how much we're able to harvest it, and how and when we're supposed to send it out. And so it's a little bit about what I do. There's probably the biggest difference between us and other vegetable farms is, again, we do not sell our product to stores or to farmers markets or to CSAs. And a CSA is community supported agriculture. So it's kind of like a subscription. You subscribe to a farm in a way, and then they give you produce. So we don't do any of that. We don't make any profit off of our produce, and we don't make any profit off of our partners. And so I would say if you're thinking about going into agriculture, if you're thinking about going into vegetable farming, and the biggest tips and tricks I would have for you is to maybe pay attention in math, because you want to be able to make enough money that you are sustaining your farm and sustaining your lifestyle outside of your farm, because you need a home and you need utilities. So math is important, so maybe some bookkeeping or accounting skills would help you out. If you have any experience with power tools or hand tools, that comes in, incredible. Like, I'd never seen something like this, and it was actually very intimidating for me. So I actually didn't even know how to use a drill when I got out here, and the farmers had to teach me how to use a drill. They've taught me like pretty much everything. And so then if you're thinking about going into farming, or even just like curious about it, if you have any of those skills, that will definitely help you out when you get here. Like I said, this dibbler that we use, so we don't have to go around poking thousands and thousands of holes. Actually, I made this one. So, and I did it with the drill that they taught me how to use. Other tips I have for anyone who's interested in going into agriculture, I would say it is hard to start off. So do not be discouraged. I feel like I've said this is going to be the third time I say this, but there will be failure, there will be setbacks. You can't let that deter you. If you honestly, truly believe inside your heart of hearts that this is the job for you. You just have to keep pushing sometimes. You have to be creative. You have to think quick on your feet. You have to know when to step forward in a situation and just try and solve the problem. And then you also have to know when to step back and seek help from people who have been in a situation before. And especially when you're starting out, you will be asking for help and you will be asking a lot, and that is okay. It is important to ask for help. It is okay that you don't know what you're doing when you start out, because nobody's perfect. Nobody knows anything right off the bat. And I would say the most important personality trait that you can learn to develop is resilience. And so then when bad things happen, or when things don't go your way, or like if the wind knocks your greenhouse down, or the deer come in and they eat all of your watermelon, you can't just give up. You have to find ways to adapt. You will rebuild the greenhouse. You will put up an electric fence to keep the deer out. You have to keep pushing forward.